Hello, and welcome to the fourth video of our series, Core Strength, Developing Your Documentary Through Application Writing. In this final video, we will cover the financing plan and plan for exhibition sections that we've broken the core application into. So starting with financing plan, we have three items. First, the fundraising strategy, the funding to date, and the comprehensive line item. Comprehensive line item budget. Starting with the fundraising strategy, this should be prose, one paragraph, two paragraphs max, and it should explain how you plan to close your gap. So you can explain all the types of funding you hope to do, such as co-productions or crowdfunding, private investments, and so on. Are there any sources of funding that you're already discussing with people or just plans for the future? And reviewers are reading this section to see if you have a realistic plan to raise your budget and to see if it also, the strategy you have, if it reflects your film's intentions. And for funding to date and comprehensive line item budget, I'll go to the next slide for some examples. So these examples are from the same film, There Was, There Was Not. So on the left side, you can see the funding to date or funding detail. So this is just a list of the funding that you've already secured and funding you hope to receive. So you can see here on the left, it's been separated, which is also helpful. It's clear the type of funding source, the name of the funder, and the status. So that's the perfect format that you can use in your core application. And then on the right side, we have an example of a page of the type of budget and detail we're looking for. Different funders have different requirements on what your budget should cover, but it's usually for development of your film to release. It should include salaries for you and your crew, and it should reflect the ambitions of your film. So in your artistic approach, if you wrote that you're planning on using animation, recreations, archival, all of that, a reviewer will look for costs allocated for that in the budget, so they should align. And reviewers understand that your total budget amount can differ by location or the scope of your film. There's not really a cut and dry specific number that we're looking for. We're just looking to see if it aligns with the scope of your project. And then lastly, we have a budgeting template on our website that will also link below that we recommend. It includes almost everything possible you might need to budget for, so you don't need to follow it exactly or even use the template if you have something else you prefer, but it's a great starting point if you're not sure what budget template you'd like to use.
All right, so now we're in the last section of the core application, something that we've titled Your Plan for Exhibition. So what do you plan to do and how do you plan to reach audiences once you've completed the film? So the two questions here, usually found at the end of the core app, are around audience and your intended impact. You'll notice that both of these questions are not long questions. I'm sorry, they don't require long answers. So we're really just trying to get an idea of what it is that you're considering about your film that's going to help you market your film, right? So for example, for audience consideration, probably the worst answer you can have for audience consideration is, I want my film to reach everyone, right? It doesn't show the discernment that you have of course, not everyone is going to be able to watch your film, right? So you really want to focus on, well, what's my film about? What are the themes that it's touching upon? What are different geographical areas that would be interested in a film like this? There's some data out there that if a film is over 2 hours, maybe it's an older audience rather than a younger audience. So it's just an awareness that you know what specifically who is your film trying to reach, um, and you want to list out those groups. Then for intended impact, you're absolutely welcome to include an impact plan if you have it, but there's not a ton of room to answer these questions. So really, really broadly speaking, what is the social good that's going to come from the release of your film? Or, the way people really ask this question sometimes is, um, how is an audience member going to be changed after they watch the film? So, they went into the theater one way, and then once they leave, what is that impact that you want to have? So, is it that you want to activate people? Do you want to create an awareness for people? Um, so this can just be some top line um, thinking around how you want to do your impact. And then, you may be applying with the core app when you're still in development, or maybe you're in pre-production. Most distribution experts will tell you that you should be thinking about distribution, exhibition, even from the early stages of filmmaking. Um, it just gets you thinking of like all of your production decisions. Who's going to watch this, right? Film is really a tool of communication. So you want to think, how am I going to reach those audiences? But um, when you're in pre-production or in development, you may not have the film itself yet. So it's perfectly fine for you to have an answer that's somewhat aspirational, right? These are the people I hope to reach, and I hope to do community screenings. I hope to be able to screen this film for this particular community at this time. It's perfectly fine if you don't have all of the answers, but we just want to get an idea that you're thinking about your impact.
That was the last of the questions in the core application. Now we just want to quickly go over what has changed for the Core App 3.1 in case you're familiar with the previous version. So the first thing is word count. Some questions have a decreased word count with the hope that it's easier for you to write an application and it's not as long, though some questions remain the same, like film summary. We know a shorter word count might actually make it more difficult to write your application in a timely manner. There are also fewer questions, so especially in the producing decisions and the plan for exhibition, we've combined some questions and then have made the language clearer, again, to make it easier to finish the core application. And we've also added resources directly into the application PDF and the questions. So many of the resources we've listed in this presentation you can find in the actual application itself as well. And then the last thing is generative AI, which is the point one of the 3.1. And this is a few AI integrated questions as well as an addendum with resources. This was a collaboration between IDA and a few other organizations, which then led to a survey, and then that survey helped us create these questions. And I will go over the questions now. And these are not required. So if you're not using generative AI at all in your film, you can completely ignore these additions to these questions. So artistic approach, the AI integrated question is, will you use Gen AI as a part of your artistic vision, accountability and community care? What concrete steps are you taking to use Gen AI with accountability? The budget, we just ask that any planned use of AI is reflected in the budget. And then in the work sample, in the description, make sure to make clear, or you can put it in the work sample itself, if any material is AI generated. And I would also make it clear whether this is temporary or reflects the final version of your film.
So, as you can probably tell, and as you've been told before, the core app is too long. But it really is long because it's breaking down every single filmmaking aspect that we think a filmmaker should think about while they're in production, before they're in production, after they're in production. It's a really long process. And so there are many things to consider when you are filmmaking. And so the core app breaks down all of those different components. And so hopefully, if there's a question that you feel like you can't answer yet, it could be a moment of reflection for you to sit down and say, oh, let me try to figure this out before I go out in the field or before I go and, sign a participant on to work on my film. Um, Happily, this is the fourth and last video of the Core Strength series. All of them will be available on documentary.org/videos. If you are interested in watching any other of our educational programs at IDA or becoming an IDA member yourself to support more of our programs, please check out documentary.org. There are a lot of great resources and opportunities for filmmakers on there. That's all for us today. Bye.